Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bay Area Content Marketing Meetup. This might be our final Zoom-based meetup of the year. We'll see. It is November. My name is Dennis Shao, the organizer of the meetup group. Today, it's a very important topic, actually. I think Rosemary and Kyle will tell you why it's important, but GA4 is here, and pretty soon, Universal Analytics will not be here. So Rosemary and Kyle are GA experts, among other things, and they're going to take you on a deep dive of GA4. Rosemary and Kyle, I'll let you guys take it over and maybe introduce yourselves to the group.
Sure. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through this. So I run a B2B marketing agency. I work with software companies, and we just provide outstanding results for our clients, from UI improvements, lead generation, and so on. Measurable results is, of course, what they're looking for, and that's why Google Analytics is so important. And Kyle, I'll let you take it over from there.
Hey, everyone. My name's Kyle. I'm based out of Nashville, Tennessee, formerly from Chicago. And I'm a solopreneur helping people with their analytics. I primarily help small marketing teams use their data to make smarter decisions. That doesn't mean the company is small necessarily, but just a small team, because they're trying to do everything. And it seems like analytics is the thing that always gets left out when they have other things to work on. So just glad to be here helping people learn more about GA4.
Okay, so how many people got this email this morning? I think Dennis said that I think Google was giving us a plug for today's event, because this went out to everybody who has a Google Analytics account, just reminding them that GA4 is coming and Universal is going away as of July 1st. And then as of now, they're saying that all GA Universal data disappears at the end of next year. So that's kind of a scary thing. So today we're going to talk about what's different, how GA4 is affecting your reporting, which is actually huge, how to do customization, understanding the metrics, and how to use some of this data to improve your site. So if you have questions.
Anybody you're going to talk to, Sandy, I'm not asking you for any.
Oh, okay, so please feel free to put your questions in the chat, and then I will, Kyle and I will answer them as they, as we uncover that section. So Kyle, this is for you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of changes in the new platform, but some of the high level ones that you'll probably hear people talk about is, so one main thing now, you can measure websites and apps. So they've created one platform to kind of have all of that data in one place if your company, has both of those, or if you just have apps. The data model, how the tool collects data, is a lot different now. It's more user-centric and events. So every single action that happens on your site or in your app is an event, versus the previous or the current analytics, which is based on sessions or visits and hits. Cross-device measurement is much better. What else? They've added machine learning, which can fill in some of the gaps in your data. Privacy is now very central to the entire tool. And one big selling point, or Google is marketing it as a selling point, is you now have access to all of your raw data. You can use that through their tool called BigQuery. So that could be useful for, I think, really large companies that are doing tons of data crunching. And then there's a big push to measure engagement and engaged sessions to give us a better idea of what is happening on the website.
And you don't have to be writing everything down here. Dennis is going to drop the URL to this presentation in the meetup, so you can refer back to this. So things have really changed with GA4. It's where I'm showing you an example of what the current version, GA Universal or GA3 looks like. The usual things, audience, acquisition behavior, and conversions. This is what the new out-of-the-box GA4 looks like. You know, acquisition is the same real time as, but these other sections are quite different. And what Kyle and I have done is to put together we've reorganized the data in GA4's interface so that it helps you to use the data the way you used to do that. And this is just to help you get started in your first year. Customization is really easy. We're going to show you how to do that. We're going to go through a few slides, and then Kyle's going to bring up to the web's GA4 installation, and then we're going to show you this live. And so you'll be able to see how to make changes right in the interface. Just one thing to remember is that you'll have to set up Google Search Console because no data from GA Universal transfers over. Everything is a new install with new data. So this is one of the report snapshots that we think is really quite nice. All of these cards here are changeable, and we'll show you how to change that. The report snapshot is the first thing that you're going to see here. What's nice about it, it gives you the graph so you can see what your data is like. Some insights, there's lots of different insights to take a look at. And then some of the data that you're already familiar with, like the source and medium and conversion data. And you can customize it. You're going to pay attention to wherever you see this little symbol in the interface. Also, you can add summary cards and other cards. So look for these symbols as you're customizing your own interface, because we are recommending right out of the gate that you customize your interface. And this is an example of the acquisition interface that we have customized from, I think, maybe 15 or 16 columns down to just 6 columns here to look at. And so you're all familiar with user sessions. And Kyle, do you want to just talk, do you want to say a few things about engaged sessions, or do you want to wait till we?
I think that's coming up in like the next slide. So,
okay.
But yeah, this is just showing that there's an emphasis on engagement now, and we'll explain that in a second in more detail.
So we recommend going in, removing things that are confusing just so that you can get started. And then later, it's super easy to add all those things back in when you need to answer more business questions and look at things like e-commerce data and new users and so on. Events. So events are very different. Everything now is an event. Events are parameters that are giving you extra pieces of information. Page views and downloads are also considered events. So are things like videos, clicks on links, completing a purchase. This is an example of to the web's events. And one of the nice things here now is Google's going to pre-populate this. And then we've added our own events here. And then what you can do very easily from this interface is to make these events a conversion. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Enhanced measurement events. So the great thing about GA4 is that it's automatically tracking things so that you don't have to do extra coding like we used to have to do. So right out of the box, you've got scrolling, clicks to outbound links, site search queries, and so on, file downloads, form submissions, video engagements, as long as they're on video on YouTube. But I just want to make a few comments about interpreting the scrolling data. I think that while it sounds like scroll data should be really, really useful data, it's got a lot of issues. For example, these 2 pages are full pages. This is 90%, this is 90%. So somebody getting down to 90% of this is a really useful piece of data. However, the problem is that scroll data is commingled with desktop and mobile unless you're separating it. And of course, those calculations are going to be very different from each other. Kyle, do you want to talk to this slide?
Yeah, so this idea of engagement is core to GA4. And they're trying to, we didn't have an accurate way, or accurate's the wrong term. We didn't have a great way in the current analytics to measure engagement. People tried to use bounce rate, but that had a lot of flaws. And so they're trying to address some of that with engagement. So they have 3 criteria for what is considered an engaged session. So the first is the user on the site more than 10 seconds? So if they are, then that's considered an engagement. And before, I could have arrived on a blog post, spent 30 minutes reading it, only looked at that one page and then left your site, and that was called a bounce. And people would say, oh, well, that was terrible engagement. But actually, I got everything I wanted out of it. I was engaging with your content, but we couldn't see that with the metrics were available. Now, if I'm on that same page more than 10 seconds, it's going to count me as an engaged user. The second criteria is if a visitor views more than one page. And then the third is if they trigger a conversion event. Now, as we were showing, you have to set up a conversion for them to actually trigger. But any of these 3, that you don't have to have all 3 of them, any of these criteria, if they're met, then that's considered an engaged session. And then 2 metrics that you will see down below in the blues, you'll see engagement rate, which is the number of engaged sessions over the total number of sessions. And then you'll also see engaged sessions per user. So that's just engaged sessions divided by the total users on the site. So, and then you'll see over there on the right, there's a whole category of reports called engagement. And that's where you can find some of those specific reports. Now, somebody's probably going to ask, well, hey, what about bounce rate? So bounce rate for a long time was not in GA4 at all. They did add it back about, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, but it's different. Now, bounce rate is just the inverse of engagement rate. So it's not technically the same as the bounce rate as in universal analytics. So that's just something to keep in mind.
And so here's an example of engagement and a decluttered view of the columns and so on that we think that are good to take a look at and to get you understanding how to use Google GA4. So in short, shoot for 63% engagement for B2B and 71% for B2C. And here is a chart from Orbit Media that breaks it down by organic, referral, paid, and so on. So the screen before was giving you data on B2C and B2B. This is giving it to you by channel. And behavior, a few things to be aware of here. This is showing you pages and screens. It didn't used to show screens before, it just showed pages. So not too much change here, but the things to remember about this interface once you start using it is there's a drop-down menu here on all of these tables, and there's all kinds of different ways to look at your data. And in addition, this this plus sign, when you click that, you're going to see another set of parameters that you can look at your data. So don't forget to use these. They're really useful. And conversions, I mean, this is pretty simple. They were just goals the way we know them before. And once again, this is where you're going to set your conversions by just using this little toggle bar. Kyle, do you want to talk about this for a sec?
Yeah, so yeah, we mentioned there whenever you jumped on today that there was an email sent out from Google, again, reminding us that universal analytics is going to be sunset. That happens on July 1st of 2023. So if you haven't migrated over to GA4, you're going to have to in like the next 8 months. And things to keep in mind at a very high level when you're going to do this migration, or maybe you've started collecting basic data and you want to know if you've included everything. I would start by just, document or think about how you currently use universal analytics, and then you're going to try to replicate that in GA4. So first thing I would do is identify the reports that you use the most, and it doesn't have to be a ton. It can be 2-3 reports. And we're going to make sure that you can find those in GA4, or if you have to build it, you can do that too. And then things that you might want to move over are any events that you customized in Universal Analytics. If they're important and you need to keep measuring that activity, make sure that you move that over. Goals are very important. Now they're called conversions in GA4, but anything that's a success metric, you're going to want to make sure that you're measuring that in GA4. And then perhaps filters. So if you're, trying to block spam or filter out your internal employee traffic, you can try to set that up in GA4. Now, one caveat about filters, it's not great yet, the feature in GA4. You can do a little bit of IP filtering, to block some of your internal traffic, but it's very basic right now. So that hopefully will improve over time, but you can do a little bit of that. Additionally, when you're considering migration, I would say if you're not using Google Tag Manager to do all of this, the implementation of the code, I would highly recommend it. It's the easiest way to install analytics and frankly, any marketing tag you want to add to your site. And then we mentioned briefly, or I think we did at the top, that at the end of next year, you will lose access to all of your Universal Analytics data. So if there's any historical data that you want to be able to archive, you need to grab that by the end of next year. And I would, again, just identify the top reports that are important to your company. And then also the date ranges of the historical data that you're going to want to keep. So do you need just a year? Do you need 2 years? Like how far back do you want to go? So those are my additional migration tips.
And from a process standpoint and downloading those 4 or 5 reports I'm thinking of doing it for 3 years, is I would set up one Excel file with multiple tabs so that you have everything in one place, because there's not going to be any easy way to compare data. Okay. Oh, one last thing here. You can also use this link, and Google has a demo account. So that'll show you how to do more in-depth things like e-commerce and Google ad reporting and so on. So this is once you get past the initial surprise of GA4, you can dive in here and learn a lot more. And okay, it's now back to you to bring this up on the screen, and I will stop sharing.
All right.
I have a quick question while we're getting to that. Rosemary, you mentioned like comparison. So a typical thing for marketing is to do historical reports. So you track a KPI over time, and you might do like this month versus the same month last year. So when we cut over to GA4, there could be some metrics that are interpreted differently. So how would you recommend marketers think about that? Do we just like start reporting at the cutoff date for GA4 going forward, or does it even make any sense to compare GA4 metric versus the past on Universal Analytics?
I think that you do the cutoff as of January 1st. And then I don't think you bother with GA Universal after that point.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the other thing too, Dennis, is the data doesn't have to perfectly match, but the trends probably will. And we're more concerned with the trends, the directional data, because none of these, I mean, Google Analytics or any tool you use to measure, they don't give you exact data for many, many reasons, but the trends are always going to be pretty solid.
Makes sense.
All right, can you see my screen, Dennis?
Yes.
Okay, so the first thing I wanted to do was just show, so this is what, when you have a GA property, this is what it'll look like, and you'll see something called data streams. So here we set up a data stream. This is a web stream because it's pulling data from to the website. Now, if you wanted to add, if you had an Apple-based app or an Android app, then you could add those. So that's this concept of data stream. And then when you click in here, this is where I wanted to show, Rosemary talked about these enhanced measurement events. So these are those kind of common events that Google wanted to make more available to people. So all you have to do is check this thing. I think it might be on by default. I can't remember. But when you come in here, what you'll see, these are the things that they've made easy to set up. You just have to check the box. So you've got the scrolls. You can see outbound clicks, site search if your site has it. Form interactions, they just added this one about 2 weeks ago, so that was kind of cool. I should probably turn it on, Rosemary. And then video engagement. The important thing to know about this is it's only for YouTube. So if you're using Vimeo or some other platform on your site, you'll have to customize that to be able to measure that stuff, and then downloads. So then you just hit save, and now those things will start showing up. And another thing, just to kind of make you aware, up here, now you've got a concept called measurement ID. So whenever you see a G dash long string of text, that means that's a GA4 account. In Universal Analytics, you would see UA dash something. So that's how you can kind of tell if you see a number like this, whether you're talking about GA4 or the old Universal Analytics. All right, so let's take a tour through some of these reports. So the first thing you'll notice is there's this weird kind of pop-out menu on the side. So it takes a little getting used to. But so there's a home, there's these are your basic reports. They have a section called Explore, which is where you do a lot of customized analysis. That's kind of intermediate and advanced, so we're not really going to talk about that today. Advertising is where you can find all your paid ad metrics. And then configure is where you do a lot of the customization around events and goals. So let's take a look at the reports area. Okay. So the first thing I wanted to do is just show you, when you open this up, you'll probably just see this, a thing called life cycle. And that will include acquisition and some reports here. Something new is they have a report called user acquisition, which is focusing on the first time. How did they acquire that user the first time? Which honestly, I don't find that valuable. I use this one more. This is showing me all times users come to my site. But if you need just the first time, you can look at that too. This is that engagement section we were talking about. This kind of mirrors the behavior category in Universal Analytics. So you've got an overview here, and then you've got events, and then pages and screens. So most of you, when you just get it out of the box, you're going to see this life cycle. Now, what we did to try to help make it a little more familiar for people, make the transition a little more palatable, is we tried to kind of mimic the menu structure that was in GA3 or Universal Analytics. And that kind of followed this ABC category naming convention. So A for acquisition, B for behavior, C for conversion, and then also audience. So we just put a couple reports in each of these, the ones that we use the most. So here I'll show you, this is one that you might use if you wanted to know country specific information. So that's the dimension here. We see traffic from India, the United States, United Kingdom. And so that's how you can get some geographic information. Now, let's see if I can do it here. Okay, see how that scrolled a little bit to the right? In the other menus, if you don't make any changes, there's a lot more metrics over here, probably about another 5 or 6 columns. So we stripped a lot of that out because it's kind of noisy and we didn't really want it. But I will show you how to do some of this customization right now. So if you don't find value, say, in these two, what you can do is you can come up to the pencil here. And so starting with these two charts, you got a little eyeball here. You can turn these off if they're not valuable to you, or maybe leave one on. But you can do that, and now they're gone. So that's one type of customization you can do. Then you can go in here and you can add dimensions and metrics to your table. So what we did in the metrics part, well, you won't see them now. There was a longer list here, but we just, X'd out some of these. So we've got whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 7, but there was like 10 or 12 by default.
So you can
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, and so here you can add in whatever you want. So there's a giant list here of metrics. And then you would, so I don't know, I'll just grab one. Say I wanted first-time purchasers. See, now it popped it up there. And then the thing you have to remember is you have to hit apply. So I applied it. Hopefully it took. And then you got to hit save. And then that should show up in your report then. So then when I go, just go back here. So now let's see if that works. Now when I scroll over, there's that first-time purchaser. So I just added that pretty easily, and I can delete it if I want. I can delete any of these, and so you have a lot of flexibility in how you edit the how you edit the reports. So also in the audience section here, one that we like to use is device category, because you can have different behavior based on the device that people are on. So you can look at desktop, mobile, tablet. And again, we've primarily got these engaged metrics here, just to kind of get us focused on that type of behavior. Now, when we look at the acquisition reports, this will probably look pretty familiar to people that use Universal Analytics a lot. Yeah. There's definitely some similarities. Again, here's this bar chart, and if you don't like it, you can just go in and get rid of it. But here, this table is kind of familiar. We're all used to kind of seeing organic search, direct. They have added some new categories to GA4. So now we get a thing called organic social, which is kind of cool. Organic video. I'm actually not, I'm guessing this is probably just YouTube.
I think it is.
Since that's a Google product. So again, you would have to kind of do some customization in your measurement if you want to pick up like, Vimeo or any other video platform. And then we've got, we added users and sessions and some of those metrics you're used to seeing. If you want to drill down, because these are kind of the high level buckets when it comes to traffic, I always also like to look at the source medium report. So that's just kind of the next level down in your traffic. So instead of just organic, well, now I see, Google organic. And then here's Bing and, DuckDuckGo. And then you see things like Facebook and YouTube. And So you get like the next level down of your traffic sources. Another one that's very important, this one is especially important for SEOs. They love their landing page report. So you can build this, you have to, takes a little tweaking, but you can add landing page in here, and then you'll see the pages that people enter on your site. You know, so in this case, you know, this there's a learning center tool that a lot of people, and you know, it's 51,000. It's the big gorilla of all of these. So you can identify your top landing pages, and then, you know, put your top calls to action on those pages, direct people deeper into your site to take more actions on your site. Now, when we look at the behavior report, this is the one content people are going to be, you know, like all of us are going to be super interested in this, because this is where you can see, all right, what content is most popular, you know, what's getting consumed. The metric, so in GA4, they just call it views, but it's the same thing as a page view. So, you know, don't let that nomenclature trip you up. So this is just a page view. And you can see which are the top. Now, if you've got a blog and you only want to say, you know, see what people are reading on the blogs, you can just, in this little table filter here, you can type in blog, hit return, and now you're sorted just by the blogs. So, you know, that we had that functionality in Universal Analytics, but it's just a little bit, you know, the location of things is a little different. So like in Universal, this search thing was over here on the right. So one of the things, when you start playing around with this tool, you'll see that after a while, you'll just stumble on things. And a lot of the things that are in the current analytics are also in GA4, but they're in a different place. So once you start exploring, you'll start finding the things that you need to use the most. One thing before I forget, so Rosemary mentioned there's a pull down menu here, and this is on every report. By default, when you go into the pages and screen, when you go into this report, by default, you're gonna see the page titles. Now that's not something that we're used to. So we had to go in, well, here, I'll show you how to do it. You can change that so that the URL shows up, because that's what most of us want. So the way to do that is you would come up to this edit function again, and that's, what is that? That's a dimension. And see here how it says default? That's the one. So when you originally fire this up, this is default. So if you come in here, change it to page path, hit apply, and then save, then it'll always come up as showing you the URL. So that's something that you might be more familiar, comfortable with. And then in conversions, I'll show you the conversions here. So you'll have your conversions all in one place. There's the number of conversions, and you can assign a value. This is a dollar value, you know, so if you know what what a lead is worth, that kind of thing, you can assign a value. Oh, I probably should have looked at here's how you choose your date range, and it's a little bit different than you're used to in Universal Analytics, but it's still, still pretty easy to change your date range on these things. So that's how you do that for any report. We mentioned hooking up Search Console. Once you do that, here's some data that you will see. So it'll be just like if you had it hooked up to Universal Analytics, you'll see your query data. So these are the terms that people are actually typing into Google search and then clicking to your site. And then here's like the number of clicks, here's impressions, click through rate, that kind of thing. And then also you can see the landing pages, organic landing pages from Google search. that information is also in here.
And you could, and Kyle, can you just show them how easy it is just to move these columns, because everybody's used to seeing impressions on the, you know, first and then clicks, because that's the natural progression. So just
Yeah.
show how easy that is.
So yeah, if you don't like the order of these things, you're always going to go to this pencil is where you can edit stuff. So come up here, and then you want to go into, I think that's metrics. Yeah. So these are all your metrics. So here's where you can change the order. So right now, clicks is first, so we can kind of see it here, and then impressions, and then click-through rate. So this is the order. So maybe I wanted, you know, I don't know, let's just say I wanted users to be first. Then I can just move this up and then hit apply. And then see, now it moved users to the front of the line. So that's the easy way to, you know, change the order of your reports. You can just kind of slide these around, and you always got to remember to hit apply though, because if I just leave this and go out, it won't change anything. So.
And can you also show how to get rid of these graphics at the top, because not everybody wants these graphics, and I think they can be distracting if you're
yeah. So these two, which show up on almost every report, if those are not valuable to you, or if maybe just one is, you can click these little eyeballs. So that'll turn it off. And if I want to bring it back, I can do that. So if I want to get rid of both of them, I'm just going to do this. And then I'm going to hit save. And then that should remove them. And then the beauty of all this is, you know, if for some reason I was like, oh, I'd really like to see that bar graph, I can just go back in there and add it back. So nothing is really permanent, you know, so you can make these changes, you know, say you're like, okay, I don't want users to be in the first column anymore. Well, then I can just go back in that pencil and edit and change that up.
And if you do like the graphics, you can change the kinds of graphics in that same interface that Kyle just showed you.
Yeah, let me
because that's kind of a tricky thing. So
trying to remember where that was.
And no, down, see where it says bar chart? Open up.
Oh, right. Yeah. See, that's another tip. Just start clicking everywhere. Like you'll discover hidden things. Yeah. So in here, you can change the type of chart. This is probably the exact same thing. So yeah, anywhere there's like an arrow, like this kind of side arrow or anything, it probably means you can click in there to get more stuff. So they've made this tool so customizable. I mean, and that's great, but it's also difficult and challenging because now you can create anything you want, and that can cause paralysis because you're like, oh my God, I can have everything. So where do I start? But yeah, that's how you would change a chart in here. And then I'm trying to remember, I'll show you this configure part real quick. In here is where you can see, so if you're in events, you'll see all the events that are coming through. And when you just start out, the list is only going to be like about 6 things long because until you add some of your own, there's not going to be much being measured. So, and that's really not that different than universal analytics. Like if you wanted to measure deeper engagement, you had to go in and create some events. So, you know, as we can see, here's file download, like this one, this contact us. I think that's an event that happens when somebody fills out the contact us form, that kind of thing. Now, some of these events don't tell us a whole lot. So like page view, like, well, what do I do with that? It's always going to be your largest number. Well, that and session start. So those are kind of meaningless because they're not actionable. But a lot of these other ones are, you know, file download, you know, hey, I created a piece of content and somebody downloaded it. Or, you know, I built a tool and somebody, you know, either downloaded it or filled out a form to get that tool, or they signed up for my newsletter. So these are where all your events are, and then you can mark them as conversions just over here. You can just toggle the switch on and off, and you can do this at any time, which is kind of nice. And then the ones that are turned on, they'll show up in this conversions report here. So here you've got all your conversions listed in one place. By default, Google makes purchase a conversion, whether or not you have an e-commerce site. So to the web, it's just 0 because you can't purchase anything as an event. I'll just show you real quick. This gets a little bit into the weeds, but there is if you need to debug your site, there is a debug feature. And you also have to, this goes in, you also have to have the tag manager preview mode, but this will start populating events and you can start seeing what's happening live if you're trying to debug a change that you've just made, that kind of thing. But so that's kind of the main reports section. Like I briefly mentioned, there is a whole explore area that's a little more intermediate and advanced. And I talked with some people the other day that felt that this explore section almost feels like a completely different tool also. But we're going to talk about that for a separate time.
So Kyle, do you want to go to questions shortly?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And I think just the only thing to remember on this interface is, even though we have customized ours with the ABC mapping to GA Universal, this data, the original out of the box data, is all here. So you can go in and customize that because you won't have this in your interface. That's something that we customized ourselves.
Yeah, the menu structure. Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Here's a couple of questions for you, Kyle. So is
Okay.
there a delay in GA4 reporting, like say PDF downloads or visits or whatever?
A little bit. It seems to be, I mean, it's less than a day, I would say, but you won't always, the real time can be wonky sometimes. So I wouldn't rely on, if there's something you really want to make sure that it's working, I would, set it up, take the action, download the file yourself, and then maybe come back the next day and see if it showed up. That's one way to do it. Then that'll tell you if it's working or not. And if it's not working, then you have to maybe dive into using Google Tag Manager and the preview mode in there, and you can start doing more analysis that way.
But if you are trying to, let's say you send out a tweet, well, maybe I won't use tweet as an example because it's kind of fall off the rest, but go to real time there for a minute. And if you send out some kind of announcement, you can come here and see what's happening on the site right away, right? So
you can see a lot of activity. I don't know if it's perfect.
Well, wait, it can't be perfect because that doesn't show me in Vancouver. It doesn't. I'm on the site and it doesn't show Vancouver. So.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. So there's and we're not filtering you out. So right. There's See, right. Perfect example. Now this, I wonder. Last 30 minutes. See, I don't know if this is me though, because I don't think I was on the site. But anyway, this is, you can kind of test it to see, wherever you're located. What I typically do is I go to a page deep in my site that somebody is not likely to go to. Then if I see that in the report and it matches my location, then I'm pretty confident that that's me. So then that's how you can see, okay, it's picking me up. Then you can, download something and see if it comes through. But
so we have 10 minutes left and we thought we would open it up to questions. I've been answering questions in the chat, but let's see if there's anything that I haven't answered. Oh, here's one. Is there a way, Kyle, to remove specific data from the report to avoid skewing the data?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess there's a couple ways to tackle that. So you can use the limited filtering they have. So like that would be if you're trying to block like internal traffic. But the other thing that I think people might be talking about, I'm trying to think of an example.
I mean, if the question was employee traffic, well, there's a way to filter out IP addresses.
Yeah, you can do it. It's just, it's not as robust yet as it is in universal analytics. So I'm hoping that will get better, but you can filter out some IP addresses. The logic to set up those filters is not quite where it needs to be. But I'm hoping that gets better. But yeah, you can block some of that thing. Also, you should see a lot less spam traffic in your report because they changed the this is starting to get a little bit out of my area because I'm not a developer, but they changed the measurement protocol. And the big thing is the reason you have spam in universal analytics is because people can inject basically data into your analytics. They've made that a lot harder to do in GA4. So you should see a lot less spam traffic. So like you won't see as many, traffic sources, like awesome SEO.xyz, or things like that you've seen over the last couple of years.
Actually, that's a good point. Well, can you click on this? Oh, right where you stay where you are. Okay. I just want go back to landing pages for a sec, and then click users. I want to see click it one more time. Go in the other. I want to see lowest number of views or users. I want to see if we're still seeing garbage in some of these. No, not seeing anything, not seeing any of the garbage I usually see in GA Universal. Okay. Okay, one more question. What is the easiest way to drill into performance of an individual page, view metrics over time, and compare to a previous time period?
Okay, so that would be, to looking at pages. So if you're in the default one, that would be, well, here, I'll do it. So
let's just pick a time, two time periods.
Yep. So most, so you would go to engagement and then pages and screens. And then, so like I said, see how the default is page title. So most likely you're going to want to change this to page path because that's what you're familiar seeing. So that should update. So now we're seeing specific page. Here's where it's a little tricky. Before you used to be able to click on, so like this row 1, I used to be able to click in there and it would only show me that page. They don't have that functionality now. So I may have to, let me see if this works. I'm going to just search for just this page. So I thought it cut and pasted. Apparently it didn't. Well, here, maybe I can do a tool test.
Here's another thing to try too, Kyle. Can we show 2 date ranges? Because I think that's part of the question.
Yeah, so you can try to isolate the page here, and then up here in the calendar. Okay, so let's see.
Left-hand side, compare. Toggle. Right. There you go.
Right. I might have to change. I've got a really wonky. Well, all right. So it's going to look at like.
No, we'll have old data before. Maybe I'll have some. Okay. So, can you change that from 1 month to the?
Yeah.
Compared to last month or something.
Yeah. So let's say, let's just do the last 30 days. And then if we wanted to compare preceding, yeah. Oh, okay. Or you can choose the same period. This would be your year over year. But so here, I'll just hit apply. And then when you come down here, so this is the last 30 days. And then this is the 30 days before that. That just happened. Oh, that's weird. I don't know how okay. Oh, somehow I must have. Let me click this off.
But there you can see the percentage changes in at the top. Yeah, in red and green, which is nice.
Right. Yeah. So here's your totals. And then if you want to look at the page level, so like for this page, this row 1, there was a whatever decrease of 0.33%. This page had an increase of 2.7%. For views. So that's how you could start to dive into comparing, a specific page over time. Yeah, so hopefully that answers that question. That's how you can kind of get at that.
Any other questions? We have 3 minutes. Okay. So
I had a quick question. So Rosemary and Kyle, if people on this meeting wanted to contract with you guys to help them with GA4, can you describe what are some of the services you provide?
Well, we're going to say that, Carl, I'm going to take back sharing. If
Okay.
you go,
do I have to stop? Let me see.
Yeah, you do have to stop. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's up at the top. Where is it? Pause? I hit pause. I don't know if that. Oh, here, stop share.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'll just go back here, and if I'm just looking for my presentation just a second. Okay, so if you go to this slide, you can hire Kyle and his team to work with you on training and implementation and customizing your interface. And I think it's probably going to be the best 5K you ever spend, because it's a lot to dive into. And as far as to the web, we're actually booked out for a long while.
Good for you.
Thank you. So thanks anyway, Dennis. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Kyle, is there anything else you wanted to say?
I was just going to say, I mean, we covered a lot, but we also, kind of intentionally didn't go into a lot of things. So there's a lot of stuff to learn about this platform. You've got 8 months to kind of learn it. Hopefully you took at least one thing out of this that you can use. That's all typically I expect people to get out of a presentation. If there's one thing you can use, then it's been a success for me.
All right. Thanks so much, Kyle and Rosemary. This might be our last Zoom of the year, but we will be back in early 2023 with more meetups.
All right. Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.